Yes, yes. Good, good evening, everybody. Good evening, India time, everybody.
Mhm.
Myself, Vijay Mandke, Nidhi, and myself are grateful to organizers of Space Habitat event and Professor Julio for this kind opportunity to present our research work on application of learning engineering practices and principles, integrating waste disposal methods on future space habitat. Nobody has yet experienced future space habitat. So, this implies that the learning processes must come into picture as we look for these research outcomes, taking care of waste disposal, waste management methods and techniques. This is the central theme of our research presentation. There is an emerging field of learning engineering in the same way as we talk of computer engineering, electronics engineering. It is, of course, becoming a reality because of digital age tools, where information is exploding and there is high speed information processing. And it is becoming a factor because ultimately our brains, human brains, are also integral part of the Internet of Things, if I call it IoT, that gets in the end implemented as we have our technology development and its applications for businesses. So, seeing from this point of view, maybe the insights I would like to quickly present that in digital age, the way learners learn and teachers teach are changing. And it is always for the future's performance. Rather, I would like to call it performance futures. End deliverable. As the digital tool is coming to picture, it is the end deliverable which is becoming important. The uniqueness of the recipient, and that was the point when Karin earlier we discussed that point, Julia, about the liking the favorite food. But this part on the face of it, one would not have considered in a traditional engineering design uh, engagement. Now, this part is bringing in the every design becoming function of the user. And this is asking changes in the very way we understand learning. Experience comes into picture. It is value creating experiential learning that comes into picture in research and discovery mode. And necessarily in a, just now I'm using word teaching learning interplay, but it is actually designer user interplay. Everywhere this interplay is coming to picture. It is at the interface that things are happening. And that is how I saw even that socio-cultural aspect. It is dominating now in the very design processes. And that brings in the environmental connectominal view of the entity that we are now designing. For example, if it is a teaching learning, let's say, just I'm taking for simplicity, the learner has to be seen in many forms as a researcher, as a self-directed learner, himself as an engineer, as a information disseminator. Then there is a teaching learning interplay. For example, contextualizing, decontextualizing. There is constructive conflict and there is a destructive conflict. There is external regulation and internal regulation. Finally, teaching learning interplay itself. There is a process centricity. For example, this actually I'm just now using word instruction, but I hope I'm able to, you are able to see I'm talking whether it is a work or it's a classroom. The instruction, there is an instruction everywhere. And third item is it becomes process centric. Learning to learn, learning to collaborate, learning from collaboration. Metacognition, strategy comes into picture. And finally, value stream model based instruction. which actually has integral to it the value creating experiential learning. In fact, we emphasize on that. That is why in our yesterday's paper, we talked of that the student while teaching electrolysis, we are talking of oxygen production, and he has to be stretched to think what will happen on the International Space Station. And the student might be sixth standard student or seventh standard student, but that brings in higher order complex thinking, delivering benefit and improved learner experience. And all this has to be done using internet enabled ET technology, but technology because it is on the learning process as ET as information delivery system. And underlying this are the brain science emerging principles and the enlightenment. Of course, cognitive science, learning engineering comes into picture. They inform that the critical thing that is emerging is brain aligned project based learning as the central teaching learning pedagogy. Traditionally, we have understood that to be instruction. And then there have been assignments and there have been projects we give. But actually, the central point is it is the brain aligned project based learning, which is process centric. I would like to call it in management terms. Often one word used is value chain, but because we are taking connectominal view now, system is a potential source of information. System is not only connected components. And once we take that point, system is a potential source of information. This is not how I learned engineering, at least in my engineering in institution in India, and which are reputed one even when I was. So the point I'm making to you is at this moment I'm presenting that the value creating experiential learning, and it should be effort of the designer to introduce this in his solution process. It should be effort of his teacher to introduce that in a teaching learning process. And that is because the brain has unique information processing capabilities. It is unique. Context ability, impact learning. Brain is changed by experience, value creating experiential learning. It is highly plastic. Brain connects new information to the old. Now, when this is happening, certainly what we have seen is there are different processes. Each process gets each process gets part becomes part of the total information processing, and therefore it's always a team every learning, while whereas every design, even coder, we put coder as he is alone working, but that is not the way. We must be able to see coding as a team activity, and this is how I should teach my students, and this is how my students should perform, even the workers perform. So you don't work in isolation, and if that is happening, we have got what we are just now quickly showing, that there is a team forming. You have a brain aligned project based learning critical. It is getting assisted by the lectures, labs, everything, which can be virtual. Digital resources can come into picture, but the starting point is value creating project, which is a value stream, which is a value vein, which is a value thread, and a network. So it is a networked system that we have. And in that, we have got the ET leaders, we have got the course faculty, instruction, the industry mentor, the buddy mentors, the learning mentors, the scaffolding must go on, peer learning. And we then go further and up above, if I am putting it here, the students, the group come into picture, and that those groups as they come into picture, they have their own interest, their prior preparation, so they form groups, and as they form groups, we bring in the areas of this entire team now having brainstorming, idea creation, capturing of the ideas, the strategizing, the plan, direct monitoring, and that they do for now in our case here as we do the research query for the space habitat, the waste, the space economy, waste management, waste disposal management, and then we recognize what are the requirements. Again, just to give a concrete example, in our yesterday's paper, production of oxygen, Earth and International Space Station, the air management became an additional goal and requirement. This, if I sensitize, as we mentioned in yesterday's paper, through to our students in the classrooms, certainly there will be better designers, better participants tomorrow. They are better prepared. And then, of course, mobilize for that. This entire team collaborative workflow, which is partners and collaborative workflow, which has to be the pedagogy. And without this instruction, the small collaborative workflow groups negate. If we don't train them this way, the learning and engagement integral to ET activities. So just because we have collaboration does not mean things will happen. Classrooms and workplaces which do not do this with integrity, with relevance for the context and situation, we may end up in having disaster results. Every collaboration does not lead to a success. And this brings in, we are doing like a Netflix does the video streaming, we are going to do the project streaming. It's a bougainvillea plant. It is riding on the structure, because to achieve the goal of my students means our workers, the workers are also students. Ultimately, they are using the knowledge they learned, and the learned information must be correct and it must be correctly applied. So actually, it's a project streaming, and this bougainvillea plant has to rise. At this moment, for the quick presentation of this paper, so we say what first to 8th standard students in the space economy are thinking about the problem of waste disposal management. Normally first to 8th standard, of course from 9 to 10th 11th, depending on the when higher secondary comes, and then the higher education. Those there may be little differences in our countries in terms of structure, but I hope I'm able to explain. The subtractive curriculum is what we have been normally having. There is a fixed structure comes, all perform on that. Something is done, some content is done efficiently, some I don't understand. So actually it is like metal that you take in a workshop and then cut something and make a box out of that. But that is a subtractive curriculum. It's a subtractive process. Whereas what is needed is additive, because it is not important now to take as much information as I want. That is the traditional process. Traditional means even incumbent. But more important is that, like a jungle creature, even designer or a teacher or a learner, teacher learner team, designer customer team, customer should always be there. That is the part of socio cultural aspect which is coming again and again, because the learning there is huge. And if that happens, basically you develop now like a jungle creature. You move, the teacher learner, they move through the Amazon of information to reach the goal. But it is in a feed backward manner, because they have a goal in mind, just as we have goal in mind at this moment. Waste disposal management in a space. How does a teacher do it? This additive aspect. This is additive because I'm now having a project-based ladder. I'm moving like a Netflix video streaming, project streaming. How does a teacher do it in a classroom? A concept, topic, subject, domain. Consider teaching courses such as environmental studies through standard 1st to 5th, and course science and social science through standard 6 to 8, along with mathematics. To cover concepts, topics, subject domain from courses, focus on higher order complex thinking. Always demand complex thinking, higher order. Waste management, even if I'm teaching to a 8th standard student, and normally he goes, or 6th standard student, or a 3rd standard student who goes to the school environment or the city. Now ask him what happens in a space. So suddenly higher order complex thinking has to be brought in, and technology should be used fullest to automate all the structured processes. In fact, of late I've been making proposition with my researchers that every student must be encouraged to come with Sophia and Alexa in the class. And then the teacher's responsibility, even the researchers, even the designers, even I'm putting it at this moment, I'm taking sort of go wildly, and even Amazon must be thinking service have to give. The customer has been looked at with the Sophia, and then I should design something, my people should design something which Sophia says, oh, it's, I'm confused, it's more interesting, and that product will have a value. So is true with the content. So the concepts, topics, subject domain from courses focus on higher complex thinking. This is fundamental, and driving environmental engagements students are concerned about. So in this case, we are taking waste disposal. Big question: recognize waste management as a sustainable development goal. Just I am coming because we are in the framework. What process is common to waste management disposal in a city, district, space, waste management? Always come to the underlying theme: recycling and repurposing of waste. Whether I'm on earth, whether I'm in a school, I'm in a city, district, rural, or I'm in space, recycling and repurposing of waste is required. So the point we were talking about in terms of the waste management disposal, we have come to the recycling and repurposing of the waste processes. Instructional learning outcomes then require to operate on recycling, repurposing information processes and information therefrom. It is not per se recycling, it is the information about the recycling processes and information therefrom. Because the high speed information processing and information therefrom is the crux of today's technology. Everything now is information described. Research query, then one solid state, of course, search on the internet, talk to, just like these conferences are held, a class should be held like this, and where we all are able to participate. So students, teachers, researchers, so one area, so that's the point. Even just now, this is a technology, it should become part of it. And then that classroom and the solid waste management, let's say in a city, I'm coming from India, I'm saying India, but wherever we are, particularly given city under consideration, then, and then higher order is debris disposal from increasing use of satellites and spaceship. Already student has been put into the notice, so to say. Research query one, data searched on internet so as to generate information on waste management overview. I'm not going through the details. Just I'm putting it that, and therefore now different waste streams. Just now I'm keeping myself to the earth scenario at this moment. Alternative ways of waste disposal, recycling, reincineration, composting, and now come to the space. So the first to fifth standard students are collecting. The students do various activities. The teachers will tell so many activities that do, and in that they may be making exhibits, they may be making posters, they may be even going and doing certain data collection, but and data collection is fundamentally in that sense. And now seventh, eighth, ninth, the standards. I mean, first to fifth standard, I'm saying primary, then you come to middle. When you come to middle, the disposal problem in the space need to distinguish between the trash in need of removal and items used for their location in space. There is a recognition. There is a recognition. And this, because of the increasing use of satellites. I'm not going to this aspect just now, just to say that the students now start thinking of these engagements. And as they get engaged into this, we have got the problem project defined. Define, define, subdivide these projects. Projects into sub-projects into sub-sub-projects. They are research query 2, which I mentioned about the space part, research query 1 on the earth side, but the basically sub-sub-projects. And now these sub-sub-projects, intervene them, rather introduce them in the courses. Whatever curriculum, no change in the curriculum per se is suggested. It's an additive curriculum. It's a Spider-Man, it's a Spider Girl, which is going over the wall, doing the impossible. And the cost of these are much, much less, because you are getting and connecting yourself with an environment, the industry, the deliverable. Even the when the students of fifth and sixth standards will collect some information, even the industry will have use for it. The industry people will come looking for a bright contribution. I'm not calling bright student is not intelligence. I'm saying that everyone is a gifted, because everyone is a unique. Research query one project, sub project, sub projects, similarly integrate them. So now from the first to fifth and the sixth, seventh, eighth, the projects have got introduced. You see, we have built a team, the students, then the industry has come into picture, the earth, even the space sector has come into picture. We form a team. Anywhere one who can participate intelligently through the learning process is a wanted, is a desirable candidate, and every working candidate also must be a learning candidate, and vice versa. So design these groups now, the pedagogy that we talked of. These groups done, now have environmental connections. Force the requirement. What is the commercial market need? Is there a manufacturing view? Is there a design view, business supply view? This will be better managed by the students at the social science and science at the groups at the standards 6, 7, 8, let's say today. And then obviously we have connected the project to research query 2 projects, means 7th, 8th standard students projects with our primary students projects. We have created a team. It's a real Platinese match winning team. They can be given certificates now. They are getting their primary certificate, they are getting their secondary school certificate, school, this can be, but they, in addition, the Spider-Man is carrying space debris disposal management skill certificate, a city waste disposal management skill certificate. We can make as many specializations and details of that, so one knows what one is expert in or has acquired skill in. And this can be now taken for technology development point of view to first, second, third year BTech degree level. So now we have created the entire roadmap for a Spider-Man from first standard to, if I just now take it from the point of the theoretical presentation. Of course, this work, are being implemented in certain stages of the courses, school and university. Nidhi, who is my colleague, she is researching on this on her PhD problem. Will be very happy if if amongst us other researchers we are meeting them, would like to participate, and we can work in a collaborative way because we'll learn from all of you. Thank you very much.